Abhinav, there are two top coaches on stage, Vijay Sharma, Purila Gopichand. In your case, how has your relationship been with your coaches? You've trained with so many coaches. Is there a story that we can, how was your relationship with coaches?
Well, I had several different coaches during the course of my career. Some coaches I really loved and got along with. They became an extension of family. Some coaches I really hated, but I continued to work with them because they still brought a lot of value. Perhaps I'll talk a little bit about one relationship with my coach, Coach Uwe from Germany. He was my biggest critic throughout my sports career. He kept telling me things that I did not want to hear. He made me cry many times, and I was paying him money to actually make me cry. We had a lot of disagreements. We had a lot of arguments. But every time an argument happened, and after a couple of days when things cooled down, suddenly his perspective also started making sense to me. And I became a good listener. And I think that is also, you're talking about a winning mantra or winning formula. I think as athletes, we also have to be good listeners because you never know from which strange place you'll get advice, which can be very, very valuable. And because I decided to continue to work with him, perhaps 95% of the things that he told me didn't stick, but the 5 things that did, I ended up following became the most valuable things that helped me in my sports career. Talking about number one, it taught me how to deal with conflict. Because one day it was in Germany and it was snowing, and the shooting ranges were in the middle of nowhere, probably in a jungle, and my hotel was 7 kilometers away, and we had a big argument over something, and he decided to leave me. So I was all alone. I was all alone, and I had to walk back 7 kilometers to my hotel room. And that taught me something, that I have to start learning to deal with arguments.
In the middle of snow?
I had to walk back, but it taught me that I had to start learning to deal with conflict better, because I didn't want to walk back the next day in snow after the next argument. But the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes you're going to have relationships which will be very smooth. Sometimes you're going to have different, you're going to have conflicts, and you'll also have coaches which will bring a different perspective. But the important thing is to also value that different perspective and give it a thought. Think through why a coach is actually telling you something. Because at the end of the day, it also, you can be an athlete who just listens to the coach and just follows blindly without questioning, which is one way of doing it. I didn't do it that way. I always questioned. I always asked my coaches, what I should, why are they making me change something? And that helped me. That helped me because it made me quite a self-aware athlete. And self-awareness was something which was also very an integral part of dealing with, say, pressure, for example. Because pressure manifests in different ways. It's not just butterflies in your stomach, but pressure can also lead to muscular tension, for example. So having self-awareness was also very important aspect of dealing with pressure, and that came through being a good listener, by learning to value different perspectives.
Okay.
And that was important.
Abhinav, a couple of times social media came up in this conversation. There are a lot of young athletes here. I mean, a lot of young athletes. Social media puts so much pressure. People do so many things for a few likes and few whatever. How does an athlete, who is constantly in glare, a Rudransh Patil, who used he idolizes you. I did an interview with him. How do they deal with these external pressures? How do they shut these external pressures when they are shooting, the media glare, people shouting from behind? How tough is all this?
It's obviously tough, and I think you have to learn and train to shut off these and handle these distractions. I think social media is a big thing at the moment, and it's part and parcel of current day culture and current day circumstance, so they have to learn to deal with it. But I think the important thing is making sure that your primary focus is your training, your primary focus is to do well in competition, and when you do that, everything else takes care of itself. You can't just, your primary focus cannot become more social media likes. If you go that route, You may have a little bit of success there, but I don't think you'll be able to sustain success. You have to have purity in your pursuit, and that purity in that pursuit will only come when your training and what you have to do on the field of play is sacrosanct, and that should remain your primary focus. And if you have that attitude, then I'm sure athletes will find their way to shut off these distractions that exist in today's.
But when a young athlete gets viciously trolled and abused, and families are abused, for example, in Manu's case, post-Tokyo, where her gun malfunctions and all of a sudden the whole country takes off on her, she's a 19-year-old, how does one deal with such situations?
I think you have to build an environment around you which is psychologically safe. I think you cannot, your self-worth cannot be associated to external validation. It's important, but it's not the only thing that should be something that gives you confidence or affects your self-worth. I think your self-worth, there's much more to it. You cannot just look at the external validation from outside. Build an environment around you. You have to live in that bubble. You have to build that psychologically safe environment in your support staff, in your coaches. Family plays, of course, a massive role in that. And because those are the people who will be with you during thick and thin. In times when everything looks hopeless, these are the people who will continue to see hope in you. And it's important to surround yourself with positivity. I think that is very, very important.
Okay. Abhinav is a smart man, all of us know, attractive man, but used to carry a pocket mirror. Now, was he looking at himself? I leave him to tell the story. Why did Abhinav Bindra carry a pocket mirror during his career?
Well, not just to reinforce how good looking I am, but I was talking about pressure and how pressure used to manifest to me, and I used to have a lot of tension on my face, and my jaw used to tense up a lot, which meant that my neck would not rotate anymore when the jaw tensed up. Of course, in the later part of my career, there was technology where you could use EMG and you could see how much tension you were carrying. But early on during my career, there was no way to find out. So my coaches told me, carry a pocket mirror, and every 10 minutes I had to look myself into the mirror and I had to smile and I had to loosen up my facial tension. And it helped me. It helped me quite a lot.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.